Mindful Music Moments is a national program that provides youth in schools daily access and an experience of both creative, mindful prompts and world-class music, delivered either in audio journeys or videos into their classroom or over the announcements for the whole school. The Well works with performing arts partners and especially loves to work with musicians to create new music with and for youth in schools. This commission looks at the sound intersection of Native American, African American, and Appalachian humans in the Ohio River Valley, and brought together a composer and many musicians who speak to those and come from those areas to create new music for youth in schools.
I'm Nate May. I'm a composer, pianist, and educator, and I was brought in to compose a piece for Mindful Music Moments, and I'm very honored to do so. I grew up in Huntington, West Virginia, which is across the river about 3 hours from here in Cincinnati, and I came to Cincinnati actually for grad school. I learned about the Appalachian migration to Midwestern cities, Cincinnati being one of the big ones. Now I'm really excited to meet folks from different cultures within this same geographical region and see what happens when we put everything together.
My name is Talon Silverhorn. I'm a citizen of the Eastern Shawnee Tribe, originally from Oklahoma. I am a cultural and historic interpreter, and I came to this project through Omope, who introduced me to some folks here at the Well.
My name is Omope Carter Daboiku. People call me Mama O. My other name is Ogunshina, which means Ogun brings light, and it is my culture keeper role within the traditional Yoruba Ifa community. I'm from Arden, which is in southern Ohio, on the Ohio River between Huntington, West Virginia, and Ashland, Kentucky.
The most challenging thing is going to be finding ways to allow inspirations to mix together and allow history and culture to mix without trying to find one thing that's truly, literally at the intersection of all of those, because that might be a little impossible. You know, it might be difficult to find the one thing that's shared by everyone, but there could be some alchemy that happens when all of these different things that come together in one space. There are a few things that have been coming up throughout the day that are really fascinating kind of connections. And one of them is movement. And in particular, trains. Trains have come up a couple of different times in a few different ways. And I wonder if this would be a good way to start introducing some sounds. Jay, you were saying that you picked up the saw from listening to trains. There are rhythmic patterns that come from train sounds. I wonder if you all could just kind of talk about trains.
So the sound of it's called a shunting yard here. And it's not so much train sounds, but it is these high-pitched squealing harmonics, you know, that one hears in Camp Washington. But for some reason, it was part of my life every day. For 23 years.
So my banjo Jedi master, he showed me at one point how to make the train sound.
So I wonder if we can talk more about shakers and Talon, would you mind sharing about what you told us about the drum?
It's sat a little bit. So you can see, as I'm shaking this up, you can see the hide getting soaked. This is a water drum. This is one of our primary musical instruments. You can tune these drums if you want to produce a little bit higher sound by taking water out of the hide. or you can reduce that sound by adding water to the hide. And so you can adjust the pitch of where people are singing to create a little bit better average. So this will keep everybody on the same tone, because you're trying to roughly match a voice. You're trying to match kind of the drone of human voice. So you can kind of keep tone with this. But then that rattle will keep everybody who's dancing on the same beat.
When you've lived in a culture and you've heard that instrumentation when you're on your mother's back, you don't have to study it because it's inherent in your expression. I love Shekere. The name Shekere is because that's the sound it makes. And in many languages and places, the instruments are named for the sound that they make.
My name is Matt McAllister. Percussionist and music educator here in Cincinnati. You could play it by throwing it kind of back and forth. You don't want to throw it because it's such a loose net. You can use your fingers.
Yeah, Maya, yeah, Maya, yeah, Maya, yeah, Maya. Yalodo, yeah, Maya, yeah, Maya. And there would be a dance that would go with that rhythm, and the body would be moving with that. And then if the alignment was right, the dancer would trance and they would lose consciousness, and the energy to which they were giving praise would take over their consciousness.
The first movement, the sensation for me feels like a very long stretch of time. And I think part of that is because I stretched out these instruments, and part of it is the windiness, the sense of the underwaterness. It feels kind of like a prehistoric moment. It was just sort of my mind wandering to the ancient history of the region. The first movement, I could see if you were if you think it's a little bit strange or a little bit unsettling, I can understand that, but I don't feel unsettled when I hear it. I feel more of a sense of mystery and mystique. So the first instrument group is, I'm calling it slow flutes, and it's the sounds of this flute that was played by and built by Talon Silverhorn.
This is a flute. We call it just a flute. Lots of different tribes have variations and styles of these instruments. This style probably originated in the high eastern plains, just west of the Great Lakes. And this is actually a more modern version of those styles of flutes. This is what's called a drone flute, meaning that it has two air holes, two thipples, and two sound chambers that produce sort of parallel sounds. But this is the most common type of drone flute today. But this is a black walnut flute that I made probably about 6 or 7 years ago, and it's in the key of G.
And I stretched out the sound, I think 100 times. So it's really, really slow. And it just kind of creates a drone. And they're not exactly in tune. So it also creates a little bit of a mystery that the other instruments kind of play with. So at the event, we played a G in a number of different ways for a while, and we just saw where it led us, and it was this way to collectively resonate on this note. And so for the second movement, I pulled out all these string instruments that I don't really play, but I can make a G happen on them. And I just created this drone and allowed it to kind of breathe in the space and permeate, and then made some melodies to go over top of that. So that came directly out of that experience that we had. The approach that I took to it had a lot of imperfection to it, and it had a lot of creakiness and a lot of sort of organic quality. It feels like a living thing, and that's what I was going for. So I ended up layering a number of different notes on fiddle and the cello to get it to feel like this kind of collective breath that's being repeated. Migration has been a big part of the history of the Appalachian region and Cincinnati for decades. And I was imagining a mixture of the sort of mechanical motion of the train with the emotional resonance and the sort of nostalgia.
We were taught to tell time by the sun. So as long as the sun was up, we could tell time. But in the pitch of night, when you're laying in your bed and you've already been asleep for 4 hours and you wake up in the middle of the night and wonder what time it is, you lay there until you hear this. And depending on the pattern, you knew exactly what train it was. And you knew that train went through town at exactly whatever time, because the trains were the timetable then, not the cell phone. It was a train. Or the tugboat whistle on the river. And on clear nights, you could hear it just like it was out on the street.
So that feeling of when you're on a train and you're in your own head, you're in your own memories, you're thinking about the past and the future, and the sounds of the train are just kind of gradually coming into the picture. You're gradually becoming aware of your reality and where you're going. The third movement has 4 instrument groups, and one is barn stars. So a barn star is a decorative little thing that you hang from your house, and many houses in Appalachia and in Ohio have these. It's just a star. And this one is made of metal, and I struck it in different ways. You know, this is coming out of the conversations with Mama O. So this has this metallic quality to it that's also very rhythmic. And that gradually fades in throughout the piece. And we also hear it at a few different speeds. We hear it kind of at a flickering kind of speed, and we hear it at the slower driving speed, which sort of feels like a train. I just want to say that I really appreciate this opportunity from The Well and from Mindful Music Moments. It's been a really special way to interact with the people involved, with Mama O, with Talon, with the rest of the group. It was really special that I got to go back to Cincinnati, which I missed dearly after having left, and spend time in a space hearing stories. And it's really special that I was given such trust to bring this piece out, and I hope that everyone who listens to it gains something from it.